I would say that they always say that sci-fi is best when it holds up a mirror to our present, in a sort of through a futuristic lens, and I find that very interesting because, in a way, when I was at university and I was studying philosophy and I was studying like all sorts of different subjects, and it was Ursula Le Guin who actually set her works to look at in political philosophy, and it was those books that sort of, in like The Dispossessed, for instance, gave you this complete view of a potential way of life that's completely alien to what we are used to through ideological, exploration, as opposed to anything else. And that kind of approach to science fiction being very much like, let's explore a potential of what we could be seeing now if we did something different. Let's take this theory of what life could be like and examine it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be dependent on a future. It could just be, hey, let's put this on a world and see what's going on there and apply this lens to it and then go. And separating it from our world and putting in a sci-fi setting sort of gets the distance away from it and allows us to just shed all of the earth-bound, political shit. Oh, sorry, am I allowed to swear on this?
Yeah, so, you can say what you like. Yeah,
thank God. Okay, it's too late now anyway. Yes. So yeah, it allows us to just shed all of that and give us a clean slate. And I love that. And it's sort of what I've ended up doing with mine a bit, which is definitely Far Future Planet, where all sorts of things are happening that are very, very futuristic, but it is always sort of mirroring things that have happened on Earth and that are happening again, and exploring the sort of cyclical nature and the disappointment of human beings, I guess, which is so uplifting. So I think that's sort of where the sort of for me, that's where sci-fi does it best, is when it explores those possibilities and when it holds up maybe directly or indirectly a mirror to what we either perceive, what we expect from our own lives, what we see on a daily basis, the assumptions that we make about our own world in light of, the idea that's been explored in this little sort of, I don't know, treatise almost. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Okay, yeah.
What do you think to that, Joe? To the idea of like sci-fi futures acting like a mirror, but do they necessarily have to be predictive? Do you think?
Yeah, have to is that such a tricky part of that question, right? I almost feel like that you have to split up the genre. You have to say like, look, there are these beautiful stories you can tell that sort of say, oh, like this is what'll happen if we keep doing X, Y, or Z on our planet. This is what'll happen based on our current political trends. These are the warnings or aspirational stuff. If we keep doing this, we can have this wonderful thing in the 50 years from now. We could, even older sci-fi, it wasn't a warning. It was, if we keep developing our technology, one day we'll be among the stars and things will be brilliant. Brilliant. But that is a thing science fiction can do. But to say have to seems, terribly prescriptive, because there's all these science fiction stories that we love that just aren't doing that. Watch Flash Gordon. That wasn't exploring the ramifications of, I don't know, whatever was new when Flash Gordon was made, burning coal. I don't know. Like it was about, adventure and like getting you excited and like, it could, like Star Wars isn't even about the future. It's the distant past, and there's magic. And, Star Trek is a little aspirational in a way, but even Star Trek also folds in all this stuff that makes no sense. Like Q makes no sense, right? This warp drives make no sense. But why do we have warp drive? Like, why is faster than light travel such a staple in science fiction? It's not because it's trying to be predictive, because that's BS. No one really who knows anything really thinks we're going to have warp drives ever. Right? Like, I hope we do, but probably not, right? But because it makes it fun. And I think there's nothing wrong with writing. I mean, I write, I write superhero stories, right? Like Superman wasn't written to be predictive, right? Whoever, I forget the guy's names, Siegel and something, they didn't, I think an alien's going to come and like, he's going to really take up the rights of the oppressed man. I bet any day now, like, when's that guy? That wasn't predictive. It was like this idea. What if there was a guy who had incredible power and he was on our side? right? Because if you're a guy living in that, or a person living in that era, you saw someone with incredible power, they weren't on your side, right? They were on their side. So that was a beautiful thing, and it was just bring joy to people. And that's what I write. So I'm going to have to say, no, it doesn't have to be, but there's beautiful things to explore by being predictive, and you can do some wonderful stories if that's your shtick. This just doesn't have to be the shtick.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what about you, Nick?
I've explored quite a few different things in terms of the future, in terms of how I approach things. So, ignoring the military sci-fi that I wrote at the beginning, which kind of like evolved into a more of a exploration of people, and the effects they have. I think I see the way sci-fi can be done is that humans basically push boundaries. It's what we do. We just can't help ourselves, whether it's individually or collectively. We push a boundary. We're very tangential. We go off in different directions, different patterns of thought. So you could argue that sci-fi can be infinite. It can go all the way from Joe's superheroes and that adventure and that excitement, which we need. We need that as readers, as people. We need that light in all the dark that we face every day, and that we also read every day to go against it. But also, I think we need in all of that things that are a bit more of exploration of maybe the darker side of people and how people act and how they are. And so I think in terms of sci-fi, you can make it very, very human, or you can make it very adventurous. And it's that pattern, that choice that you make along the way. So it sounds very personal, but from that point of view, that's what I've done. I've gone in separate directions to explore my own writing, my own interest in terms of what I wanted to do. At the same time, maybe exploring things that are very futuristic, very much similar to The Expanse in terms of the science and technology, but then comparing it against to a fourth dimensional race and how they act and how completely different that is and how people would react to it. But at the same time, juxtaposing that next to a group of people that have known each other for a very long time, and how their emotional interactions are patterning and going around, and how that all fluid goes around it. And then that's slap bang in the middle of a shoot 'em up. So it's possible to put all these strands in different places, in different boxes, or you can go off and write a literary sci-fi, which gets to where your mind, expanding your thought, playing with time, which I think is something that I think Tracy, you like to do. There's all those bases that you can go. So it's almost to me as if you choose to go with the human side of it and how we are as people and how we push boundaries both individually or as groups, or you go down the adventurous route. And then there's those people like me, I suppose, that gray it in the middle and try and put all those things together. But I think it's accepting from a very much a personal point of view that everything from the short story to the long form to the long series to the individual basis to the literary to the pure adventure of Flash Gordon. I grew up on the 30s and 50s serials. Saturday morning in England was basically black and white for me. I think it's all those things build people, build thought, build process, build stories. And I think I've gone off on seven different tangents in the answer.
I loved it, Nick. Thank you for the promo. Right. Yeah, and if anybody liked Nick's answer and wants to go buy some books to play around with time in the future, then you know where to get them. Thanks for that, Nick. Liam, let's come to you last on this one.
Have to be no. A lot is kind of predictive. I mean, science fiction tends to be set in the future, but even the authors aren't expecting that to be correct. And I don't think it invalidates Flash Gordon to have slide rules or throw another uranium log on the reactor. I think what it has to do, it has to imagine a future, it has to imagine an alternative, because that's what it's doing. But ultimately, all it has to be is entertaining. Otherwise, nobody's going to read it. And as long as it's entertaining, and that can be for a huge multitude of reasons, whether it's dark and depressing or uplifting and whatever, whether it's mundane or fantastical, each of those sets its own parameters and runs off with it. And as long as it's entertaining, people will buy it and read it.
Next time I go for a number 2, I'm so saying I'm going to throw a uranium log on the reactor. That is honestly like.
Where do you go for a number 2?
That's one of the great influences.
I mean, when people do that, you better not go in there for a while. What's the last time uranium? I mean,
it's like Chernobyl in there, yeah.
How far does this metaphor go? That's fine.
If you don't want radiation burns.
Gluten-free food might as well be radioactive. Let me just tell you that much. It's like
you could power the UK for years on that.